And hey, everyone, we are live. We're a couple minutes late. I am lazy. I'm lazy dwarf tonight. Uh, no, and Mark is movie, but he's also invisibly. I don't know what happened. He blinked out. Oh, there he
Nope,
is.
I am
There
here.
he is.
Hey,
I am here. I'm
All right.
movie the eighth dwarf.
Yes, and we're here to talk about, in case you haven't guessed, Snow White, but not just Snow White 2025, the Marc Webb movie. We're here to talk about the 1937 original Snow White, the movie that started Disney as a feature animation company, in yet another installment of Here We Go Again, in which we look at the original film and the remake. Although I'm struggling to think of Marc Webb's film as a remake. It's very different in a lot of different regards. That was redundant. And we're going to talk about all of it in spoilerific detail later. But first of all, I'm going to introduce Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have David Fowley of Keeping It Real. We have Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. And we have Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room Podcast. How you doing, everybody?
Good.
Good. All right.
Hi-ho!
Hi-ho!
Oh my God.
Hi-ho!
You guys are so good at this. We're going to get copyright
Hi-ho.
struck. No.
Hi-ho!
Hi ho.
Hey, it's spring break. The family was out doing a lot of gardening today, so it's appropriate. Yeah. Oh, hold on a second. We're going to pull over for a comment. Sajiwa, need
Dang.
to go pick up some dinner to watch this drama here. Be back in a few minutes. Sajiwa, what are you talking about? There's
I
not gonna
like
be
that going
drama.
to pick up some dinner only involves a few minutes.
Well, you know,
Yes,
he's in New York. It's
Look on what?
Cats has a
Cats.
Jetsons look on. All right.
Katie.
80.
80.
Oh.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Cats.
I like cats though. That's kind of fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yep. Clarified it right there.
thinking-
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So, I
Where were we?
don't know. It's been one of those days. I'm just all discombobulated. I've been thinking about this movie. I've been thinking about what are we going to talk about. There's a lot to discuss because, in case you haven't heard, there's some controversy surrounding the 1920 or 2025 Snow White. So instead of,
What?
I know, right? Instead of getting into that, let's start way back in 1937. David, as you well know, because I think I shared this with you, I don't know if I told anyone else, but I had never seen the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs all the way through until just the other night. I watched it for this show, and I watched it to prepare for this conversation. And I have to say, no, I watched it with my wife. She'd seen it, a number of times. The thing is, like with classic Disney movies, like going back real old school, I always found them, beautiful, but rather boring. I could never, they never really held my interest, even though they tend to be pretty short. I blame the Transformers generation. Oh, wait a second, Miguel. Yes, Peter Dinklage recommended this live stream.
This podcast too.
Ooh.
All right, welcome, Miguel. I was struck by just how incredible and groundbreaking the original animation is, even by today's standards. And I wondered why spend $250 million, quote unquote, remaking something when honestly I'm an old man here, so maybe I was like, oh, the kids will love it, and they're gonna look at me and just wonder what the hell I'm talking about. Just re-release the original Snow White,
Yeah.
and get people into cinemas to appreciate
They used to.
but hand-drawn animation. Look, okay, the rain scene, the climactic scene where the Wicked
Amazing.
Witch or the evil queen is being chased through the woods and up onto a cliff during a rainstorm by the Seven Dwarfs who are about to murder her. Fate intervenes and she goes a different way. But you just look at all the raindrops and the way the puddles on the ground and how the water is just dripping and conforming to everything in the scene. And you realize that was all drawn by hand, by teams of people. Now, granted, we have modern day CGI animators who are all artisans in their own right, but you can't really see the individual talents on screen in a way that you can with that degree of traditional animation. And with a lot of these films, these live action so-called remakes, you wonder what's the point? Is it just a cash grab? Is there anything that the movie is trying to say, or any kind of innovation it's trying to bring to the table? And I don't feel like I feel like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was revolutionary entertainment. I think back to Pixar in 2002 with Monsters Inc. and being able to render Sully with realistic texture to hair. I think back to the Jungle Book from like 8 years ago, whatever it was. That was pretty much all shot on a soundstage, but it looked like it was shot in an actual jungle. I really dug that movie, but then again, I don't think I watched the original Jungle Book because old Disney. I can't express how in love I am with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from 37. And I just can't believe it took me 47 years to try and finally figure it out. But I want to go around the room here. What are y'all's reaction to, experience with, memories of, fondness for, if you have it, the original Snow White? Bless you, Katie. Katie, why don't you go first?
Oh, because I'm sneezy. So one of the things about the 1937 version, because of certain things that people have said, this newer version is woke, that I honestly don't remember the last time I saw the full Snow White. It may have been when I was a little kid, but rewatching it, it's very interesting that the first word that is uttered in the film, the 1937 version, is slave. Because the evil queen says slave in the magic mirror. And I was like, okay, so wow, that I did not remember as a kid or as an adult, and shit, that's wow. Okay. So there's that. It's also interesting, for Snow White. Snow White's supposed to be 14 years old. So, it's very interesting. Yeah, that the magic mirror is like, well, she's fair game now, so it's like, ooh. And then
where did it say she was 14? Was that just the timeline, or was that mentioned somewhere?
Or what?
Grimm's fairy tale has her at 14 and stuff. But then the whole falling in love and with the guy that she just meets and kisses the dove, and then the dove kisses him, and they're all blushing. I love how the little animal character just blush, and the dwarves like blush and all that. And she wins over Grumpy, and she also cleans up the house and all this stuff. But one thing, the scene where she's running through the forest, that is still as scary today as I'm sure it was. I can't even imagine what that would have been like in 1937, because that's pretty frightening now. And even in the remake, they copied that like scene for scene. Like, I think they did a great job with that, and that's scary. And I was telling someone after the film, I want to ride with that. Like, that looks like a great ride. It is very much with the Grimm's fairy tale, when it's like, go kill the princess, and don't just kill her, cut out her heart and bring it to me, because this is a children's movie. So do that for me, you huntsman. It's like, oh, that's not her heart, it's a pig's. Well, that fool. Okay, if that's what you want to say. But damn, really? We're talking about cutting out a child's heart, and instead you cut out a pig's, and it's just like, whew, no big deal. The music, though, I don't know. It's like it had intention and purpose. Like, these songs are longer. They feel a little bit longer, but also I feel like they're doing more things in the songs than they have in a lot of other live action Disney films, which I liked. And actually, the more catchy, I also felt like there was a little bit of sexual kind of things going on in some of the stuff, like in the I don't know what you guys thought about when Snow White has to tell the dwarves to bathe, because apparently that's something that they've never done before. I actually wrote down that it's like, okay, they're working 12-hour days, coming home, sleeping, have never bathed from what I can tell in this film ever. Ever have they bathed. And she just slept in 3 of their beds. No. She would have been throwing up with vomit from just the stench when she opened up the bedroom door. All of those woodland creatures probably would have fainted.
That's on her.
Yeah.
Maybe they left the window open in the upper room or something. I don't know.
Maybe, but then it's like, and I feel like this is when they do like the scrub. It's like I was watching it, and it's like, and then they're like, brr, 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 and I was like, yeah, that sounds like somebody's motorboating. Okay, so that's probably why they didn't do this in the remake. I'm just gonna guess. But then also when
Wow.
Snow White like bites the apple, and she's like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the hell am I watching? And then she like falls. I'm like, this is okay, but the queen, seriously, this queen, I mean, this is up there with like Darth Vader and Hannibal Lecter. Like, this chick is badass, and the whole thing, like when she succumbs to like the evil that she does, like that is amazing. Like the dwarves going after her, she's gonna kill the dwarves are gonna kill her. You've got those vultures just looking on. It's like, either way, we're gonna get fed, so you guys like work it out. We're just flying down. And then when she meets her demise, I'm like, that is a thing that is missing from so many films. Like, you have a true evil person that succumbs to the evilness that they perform. And it's also, I forgot that Snow White, it's not like when she does die or is in a sleep, I don't know, it's kind of sketchy, but that the dwarves can't bury her, so I guess she's dead, and she's in that she's in that glass coffin that I mean, by this time her kingdom is like, I don't know, probably Spirit Halloween by now, because the queen's dead. You know, she's not there, and you know, you've got fall, spring, and winter, and then back to spring that the prince finally finds her. And something that I also realized, like, how does he know? Just, I mean, no one knows how to kiss her and that she'd wake up, because it's not in the film. It's not in the book of like how, you know, what would happen. Like, here's the antidote and stuff like that, which, spoiler, the 2025 one does that. But yeah, I mean, just the intensity and stuff in this film, I was like, I am impressed. I mean, it's an hour and a half. It definitely felt like it a few times. Like, they take their time. Like, when the dwarves even know that someone's in the house, it's not like they just run and go. I mean, they're very slowly checking it out, and like all the things they notice about the house. Like, that's a good 5 minutes. Like, I was watching that, and you don't think that sounds long, but in a film that actually is pretty long before they even get upstairs. But at the same time, it's needed. Like, you need to have those little those magical creatures like figuring out like there's somebody here and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm so glad that I had forgotten that we were doing the 1937, and then this one I was like, crap, I've got to get home from work and watch the 1937 one right away. And I'm a better person for it, let me tell you. I really, there's so many things about it that I truly adore, especially more than the than this newer version.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
All great points. Sorry, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Jeff is apparently trying to enter, and I don't see him anywhere. So
I think he's in the Phantom Zone.
yeah, I just sent him the StreamYard link again, so in the chat. So hopefully he can get in. That's very strange.
Follow our voices, Jeff.
I've got this weird window here. I keep clicking on it. StreamYard changed something recently, so
Yeah, it did.
I've got this like phantom window saying present or invite, which is usually where the extra guest would be. So I have no idea.
Are
what's
you there,
happening.
Jeff? It's me, Ian.
Well, we'll try and figure this out.
Hi ho. Just keep saying hi ho, and maybe he'll, you know, come good.
David,
Hi.
tell us about your relationship with Snow White. Any motorboating involved?
We go back
All right.
when she showed up. Let's see, I think in 1988 at the opening of the Oscars that year with Rob Lowe. That
Yes.
that was really something. She really stirred something in my soul.
You sure that wasn't Rob Lowe?
Could have been.
I mean, I see the original as, you know, just it's an amazing feat, artistic feat. Feat. I'm sure the artist had great feet too. But
Quentin Tarantino's version.
yeah, all the barefoot artists that worked on this. Yeah, I mean, just to think, like, yeah, I think one of the commenters here just said this was made during the Depression. It it took some like really bold moves and bold choices to make something like this and stick to it. And whenever I watch it, I don't care that I know the story front and backwards. I'm always picking up different things, and I'm always like just, pulled in and awestruck by the animation, the sound design, and the humorous. Yes, there's some scary parts, but there's some little humorous, usually involving the animals, elements that are really funny. Like when they're cleaning up the house, and what I liked about the original version, is Snow White is cleaning up the cottage while they're at work. In the new one, they're cleaning up the cottage all together, and it's like, okay, whatever. But
well, no, in the it's funny because in the original she's singing "Whistle While You Work" while she
right.
cleans up with the animals. In
Yeah.
the remake, it's I'm going to whistle while you work. She does like 2 sweeps of the broom and then hands everything off to her.
Yeah.
And just
She's working smarter now.
That's
Yes,
right.
but not
See,
harder.
that's the thing.
Yeah. But when I got a kick out of the fact that I don't think it's been, I was rewatching the original recently, and I don't think that I picked it up before that, like the deer and the fawns are cleaning the dishes, and she's like, no, use the water, because they're cleaning them like any animal would with their tongue. And it was, it was just like all these little touches, because, we know that the animators a lot of times would go to either farm or the zoo and study animals and stuff, but they're really thinking like, okay, what would these animals do? Like, did you notice like the way the turtle goes up the stairs, with he grabs it with his mouth and then pulls the rest of his body up? It's like, as cute and the live action animals in this new one they're pretty good, but you just can't get that type of adorable cuteness that you can in the animated in animation. So, Disney is well past leaving a good thing alone. They just can't. And why are they doing this? Because people are still seeing them, even though I don't know. I've gotten to the point where there's been so many of these that like I almost don't even care anymore, because I also know that one Snow White is always going to be somebody's first Snow White. And you could say, well, knowing what we know, it's unfortunate that this 2025 is some child's first Snow White. But they're not going to know any better. And I have to say that, this 2025 version is fine in that regards, but even saying that is a shame, because it should be great. And there's no way it really could be, because it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be. I think that's
it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. And so there's I mean, the antagonist is just amazing. The lighting, I picked up a lot this time around with the shadows and the candlelight, like German expressionism. Like, it's really good.
I want to pull over there a sec, David, because you mentioned the shadows. I've not seen any like behind the scenes making of stuff about how the animators pulled this off, but it almost felt, particularly in the bit where the huntsman confronts Snow White in the forest and she's up against that kind of rock wall and you see his shadow come up on her. I swear to God, it looked like frame by frame watercolor shadows.
Wow.
It didn't look like a transparency or an overlay or something like that. It looked like 30 frames a second or whatever, watercolors. And it's just you can get swept up in those details, and it invites you to watch the movie multiple times, because the first time you could just be like me, just kind of agog at like, how am I watching what I'm watching? And then go back again, like, oh, right, there's a story here.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's probably Disney's I mean, it's obviously a classic. It's like you said, it's when it started it all, and I think it's one of their, kind of rare, perfect films.
Yeah. Well said. Mark, tell us about Snow White.
Well, I mean, I as a kid, Disney's was lots of VHS and then cable, but we had lots of the big clamshell VHS. My family loved movies and especially Disney. And I remember seeing Snow White, and it always stuck with me. I liked the music. Rewatching it again, there were a few musical numbers that I had forgotten about. But, I mean, it's a true musical to where, as Katie talked about it, and David, he mentioned it, the music in the 1937 version, the music feels like it's actually moving the plot and adding to the film.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like, it's time for a song now. And we've had that with a number of these films, not just the live action Disney, but just those other musicals in general, where it's like, it's time for a song now. But especially the live action ones, it just feels like a number of the musical numbers, especially the newer ones, feel shoehorned in. I'm going to be honest, out of all the films that I thought they would not do a live action version of, I figured Snow White was one of those untouchable films. I know, naive of me, of course. I figured there were so many other of the animated films. I'm looking at you, Robin Hood. Where's my live action Robin Hood?
Yeah.
Give me some freaking talking rooster in live action. But anyway.
Well, no, hold on a second. It's very interesting you bring that up because, okay, I'm sorry. I have still not seen the original Robin Hood cartoon with Fox and everything. Listen, when they inevitably remake that movie, we'll talk about it, if not sooner. But that movie seemed like it would have been far more aligned with the politics of Snow White 2025 than this. You've got the whole like kingdom and the bandits in the forest and all this other stuff. So like, I don't know. We'll get into more of that later. But no, sorry, Mark. It just it was like it was right there. Just make that happen.
The animated story of Robin Hood, which is a really good telling of Robin Hood in general, that story would have been more fitting for today's period than remaking Snow White. Live action, remake. But I love the original. Watching it again, David's right. The artistry in it is amazing. The writing is good, even for it being old school and a little bit slow. It gives the story a little bit time to breathe. We get time with the characters. We don't. I'm going to bring it up. I know we're going to get to the 2025, but I'll just throw in there that with the 2025 one, the dwarves feel far more like side characters than in the 1937 one, where you do, And what's interesting is I haven't watched this one, the 1937 one, in a long time. So revisiting it, I'm like, the prince plays far less of a role than I remember. And then I'm like, oh no, wait, that's Sleeping Beauty where the prince was more, so the whole idea of changing Prince Charming up, they didn't really need to have to do that with the new one anyway, because you look at this one, the story is called Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and it's mostly about Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. And the queen in this one is one of those classic villains. She is Katie said she's badass. She's dark. She's very just straightforward. It wasn't like, oh, the huntsman betrayed me, I'm going to need to go punish him right away first. No, she was like, well, crap, there goes that plan. I got another plan. And she immediately goes downstairs, does the plan where she becomes the ugly witch, but she doesn't just hop off right away with the apple. It takes her time we get the impression it takes her some time to come up with the apple spell and to do all of her things. So, it's premeditated, but she worked at it. It's not just like, poof, oh, look, now I got a poison apple. Everything. There's nothing wrong with it taking time in that it gave it more weight. And the fact that at the very end, it's her own, she's the victim of her own demise, which is a wonderful, better message in that film. You watch the way the story is. And I think David alluded to it, and we talk about it here, and Ian, we've discussed it. kids movies up until a certain point, people who made movies for kids made it also for adults, but they weren't afraid to cover some of the darker territory. I mean, we talk about, oh, she had a heart. Yeah, but the parents were there with the kids, and if the kids had needed an explanation, they could talk to the kids about it or whatever, but they weren't afraid to address these things. It was one of the things why I enjoyed The Wild Robot, because The Wild Robot last year did something similar in that it did not shy away from the fact that, oh, hey, look, here's a cute little animal character, and all of a sudden an owl comes down and swoops cute little animal character away, and you're like, they're not going to go off to be buddies. They don't imply that at all. So, but yeah, I mean, I understand looking through today's lens, there are a few, but there are far less problematic things, I think, with Snow White 1937, even through the lens of 2025, than there are with later animated films created by Disney, if you look at them through a lens of 2025. Rewatching this one, there's a lot less than I thought, because if you're paying attention to how Snow White in that is, on the surface level, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see it this way. She's, cleaning the dwarves. But at the same time, it's like she's not being forced to. She doesn't feel out. She's like, hey, I want to do something nice. Maybe I can stay. I'm going to clean the house. It's not like, oh, I have to clean the house because, I cleaned at the castle and now that's my role in life. She's like, no, I want to do something nice. Besides, if I'm going to lay down, this place is a pigsty.
Well, it's also because when she goes into that cottage, she's led there by the woodland animals who, after escaping, through the forest of danger. There's so much to talk about. Katie, I'm going to disagree with you a bit. I think the forest scene in the new movie is impressively computer generated, but it completely misses the point of that sequence from the original film, which is that Snow White is so freaked out that she's imagining all of that stuff happening around her. It's not like the forest itself is enchanted and evil, and she doesn't have to plunge into the water and all this other fancy stuff, right?
2025 makes it seem like it actually is
like it was, which would have been interesting. Like if the queen was so powerful that she could enchant the forest like some kind of a Wizard of Oz thing, but that's not what they were doing. But when she goes into the house, she thinks, because she's never seen the dwarfs before, never really been out into the woods, she thinks it's like a bunch of orphaned children because there's small beds, small furniture. She's like, oh, if I clean up after these messy boys, maybe they'll let me stay here. And then she falls asleep on the bed because she's exhausted. It's the thing about 1937. And I think it's something that a lot of people could stand to do nowadays, is to not look at it through the lens of 2025. But to look at it through the lens of 1937, what was happening in 1937? We're talking about rough material in a kid's movie about, a human heart being ripped out and offered up as proof of a murder. You're talking about kids who grew up in the Great Depression. They're rough and tumble streets all over America. You're also talking about an escapist fantasy for women who had very hard scrabble lives, and many of them probably thought, wouldn't it be awesome if some prince came along and swept me off at my feet and offered me a life of luxury? The dwarves and Snow White have a very special relationship. It's a hard-fought friendship in the terms of Grumpy. I mean, Grumpy is the main male lead in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I had no clue. Like when Snow White is baking a pie right before the crone shows up, what's she doing? She's decorating it with Grumpy's name on it because she really wants to be liked by everybody and melt the stone cold ice block of this little dwarf, and it works. And Grumpy leads the attack on the witch when everyone thinks Snow White is dead. It's a very moving, powerful story. I understand the concern about what it says about the gender roles of men and women, everything, but again, I think those are relatively modern constructs that kind of take away. I don't think anybody was making this movie with the idea of an oppressive narrative or anything. They're just trying to make something that was very hopeful and very innocent, about an innocent in a world that was trying to destroy her, which in 1920s and certainly in the later 30s, as we would come to find out, turned out to be something that was rather necessary, keeping that spark of hope and optimism amidst the forces of evil.
Well, I mean, that's it at its core. Snow White is the innocent. She is the optimist. She is, I mean, regardless of what's going on, she gets scared in the forest at first, but when she wakes up, she feels bad that she startles the animals. You know, I mean, she is a very kind heart in a very cruel world, you know, because and you know, that's infectious of everybody around her. I mean, even the huntsman, he just can't do it. He's like, he's like, you're too cool for school. He's like, not just his loyalty to Snow White, but he likes her as a person. He's like, I have absolutely nothing wrong with this person, you know, and so yeah, Snow White is this innocent who stands her ground basically, and it ends up, you know, and she ends up being too trusting, which, you know, you have in there as well with her taking the apple, but even though she's hesitant on that, but in the end, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story, even watching it, like I said, through today's lens, just because I was just comparing it on how you would possibly take it today. I'm like, they didn't need to make as many changes as they did because there are far less problematic things in this one than, like I said, in later Disney films that you could find if you're comparing it through today's, is what I'm saying. So it's interesting to see what they changed in the 2025 version and what they decided to keep.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm sitting here going, okay, if you are going to touch this story, you didn't have to change as much as you did. But
I honestly, it's the stuff that they kept in the 2025 version that was, I'm not going to say more upsetting, but it was just mind-boggling. The bit in the mines where we first meet the dwarves is that classic scene in the original where Dopey, he lifts his head up and he's got these two giant sparkling diamonds, and you see the kind of like all the many eyes and all the different facets. It's fun, it's cute, but then trying to make a realistic version of that in the live action, it just looks creepy. Plus the diamonds they try and make them, I guess, realistic size to fit in his eyes, so it just looks like he's got, you know, bug eyes or something. I don't know what they were thinking, but we're gonna switch over to talk about 2025 after we get to some more comments. David Wilt has basically all the comments leading on to this point. What made the original Snow White such a classic movie is it was not only the first full-length feature film by Walt Disney, but how it came out during the time of the Great Depression. Yep. Watching the old classic Disney movies, you realize even though the family movies, it has some pretty scary moments, especially when Grimhilda is transforming into the elderly woman, or when Snow White finds herself in the woods after the hunter lets her go. Yep. Mm-hmm. Some of the classic Disney shorts had some very iconic theme songs, like The Three Little Pigs, which had the song Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? Yeah. Did you know the actress who played Snow White in the original had 2 years later had lended her voice in the classic film The Wizard of Oz during the song If I Only Had a Heart? I did not know that.
Yep.
If you guys ever watched the classic 1980s comedy 9 to 5 during the sequence, how the female brags about, it's Lily Tomlin, if I remember.
Yeah, it's Lily Tomlin. Yep.
Yeah, how they would each take care of Frank Hart during Lily Tomlin's character's fantasy. They do it as sort of a parody of Snow White. Here's something fun. This speaks to not only my upbringing, but also what was on HBO all the time. I've seen, I think, 9 to 5 a dozen times in my lifetime, not in decades, but in pieces, because it was always on. That was as close as I got to Snow White, honestly. Robin Hood's a very classic movie. The song Whistle Stop was covered many times. And if you guys ever watched the classic movie The Rescuers, the character of Penny can be seen as sort of the inspiration of many of the future Disney characters, or basically strong female characters, because of how she managed to escape from Medusa all by herself instead of just waiting to be saved.
The original Rescuers is great.
I've never seen The Rescuers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original Rescuers is another really
great
one. Yeah.
Am I going to have to just go back and watch all the Disney movies now?
I mean, you kind of,
Yeah.
The classic ones, for sure. Absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
you haven't seen the original Jungle Book?
No.
Wow. Wow.
Seriously?
It's
Freaking
good,
Louis Armstrong.
The Bare Necessity?
Well, I know the thing is, I know about the movies, and most of them are pop cultural memes, but I've just never felt compelled to go and watch them. Besides, we've got these spiffy live action remakes, so it's better, right? It's better. There's no reason to watch the originals. Isn't that what the message is? No.
Okay, John Favreau.
Hey. I will say I did see The Lion King in '94, and I prefer the live action Lion King.
You're so weird.
What?
Yeah, I got problems. But I am standing on principle. I refuse to see Mufasa. Anyway, all right, 2025.
It's out for free streaming now if you got Disney Plus.
I saw that. I was watching a commercial. It's up on there already. Yeah.
Ian, you want to see something real quick?
Is it a Mufasa popcorn bucket?
It's a whole tower. That's
it's a whole
is that Pride Rock?
Yeah.
A Pride Rock popcorn bucket?
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work.
Wow.
Nice. I did not. It was on sale and I couldn't resist. So
it makes my Optimus Prime bucket look like nothing. I feel bad now.
Well, it's in the plastic still. So at first I thought you were bringing out a Harry Potter sorting hat popcorn bucket. It kind of, but
butter. No.
Mufasa Pride.
All right. So Snow White. It's no longer Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. As Rachel Zegler, the actress, said years ago in interviews that have become memes and just like played a million times, this is not the 1937 version. Gal Gadot came up behind her on that red carpet or whatever it was, saying that she's not going to be saved by the prince, and there's all these changes, and they're changing the definition of fair. Who's the fairest one of all? It went from who's the most beautiful, young and stunning, to literally who's the fairest in terms of like equity. I'm glad no one told me to make a drinking game out of how many times they said the word fair in the new Snow White, because I would have been blotto by minute 15. It was unbelievable. This movie didn't need to be made. Certainly didn't need to be watched, except for this live stream. I had a boycott in mind for this movie because I didn't want it in my life. But yeah, I figured, hey, it's new. There's probably something to talk about, and so we're going to talk about it. Let's just imagine a world in which there was no controversy surrounding Snow White. Everything from the race stuff to the comments about the original movie to Rachel Zegler's comments on Palestine, which as we found out recently resulted in one of the producers of the film flying out to New York to have a sit down with the star of the movie. Does the movie stand on its own at all? Is anybody surprised that it is not doing well at the box office?
Again, like this, if we would, as soon as it was over, I turned to the guy I was watching the movie with. I actually knew him. It wasn't just a guy. And I said, you know what? This is better than Zemeckis' Pinocchio.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
This is better than Burton's Dumbo. You know what? This is all right.
True.
And again, like I said, a Disney Snow White movie should not be all right. It shouldn't be fine. It should be great, like the original. Again, like I said, a younger generation, this will be their first, and they won't know any better probably, and they will probably enjoy it because they're used to movies breaking out into song and dance numbers. They're used to, Broadway musical type films. Yeah. So what can I say to that? I mean, I'm it's not the preferred version, of course. But yes, it did not need to be made. But here we are. And as far as the box office, I mean, we kind of knew this was coming. It's not just the controversy surrounding it. It's just like by and large, who's asking for a live action Snow White from Disney? No one. So,
well, and it's tough because it really does seem like I don't know anymore, because when Mufasa, we were just talking about, came out in December, it didn't do that well opening weekend, and it was certainly not very well received, but it went on to be a monster blockbuster money making film. You've got the trailer for the live action Lilo and Stitch, which I have no interest in, coming out. That trailer just dropped, and there's a lot of excitement for it because that's a beloved movie. And watching the trailer, it looks like almost a shot for shot remake of that film. So I don't know if it's the word of mouth. I don't know if it's the lack of interest in Snow White. Or maybe it is because the internet is ubiquitous, and people just kind of get a sense of things, especially because there's been some conversation around this in some form or another for 2 or 3 years now, that folks might be like, well, it might be bad. It's probably going to be on Disney Plus in a month. Who cares? I'll wait. Or they may have just stayed away for reasons that, I mean, I hate to say it, Rachel Zegler, after the election that we had last year, came out and she made a tweet or an X post, whatever, that she has, since taken down, basically talking about half of the country, saying that she hopes they never know peace. It echoed a previous post, like an Instagram video that she put up, talking about, I don't need your business if you don't like my politics. And people listen to that.
But it's not the first time she's complained about the business. Let me back up. It's not the first time she's made headlines that was particularly about politics, but she's complained about the business before. And she pretty much really hit the ground during high school and everything. And things can be taken out of context. Things can, are unfortunately covered 24/7. And yeah,
I agree in principle, but the thing is, there are a lot of clips of her saying ridiculous and offensive things in full context. And it's not like they play the same. I mentioned that the one carpet thing, the most famous one, that does get a lot of replay, but there are half a dozen at least clips of her coming out and saying frankly boneheaded things. So I could understand people saying, I don't want to support this or the production. And when she says, I don't want your business, possibly, but Disney does. And that's why it's just mildly annoying. But I paid good money to go see this movie, and everything else aside, I just think it's an ill-conceived, badly done production. And I think about all of the flow. I think, Mark, we talked about this possibly on your pre-show the other night, if I remember. A movie that was $4 million and won the Academy Award last year for Best Animated Feature Film against Disney movies that cost $250 million to make. You just wonder, where is the magic? Where's the innovation? Where's the heart behind these movies? They all just seem like cash grabs. Now we have a live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon coming out soon. I love the original animated film, and it's not even, I think it's 15 years old maybe, and it looks like they just remade it with, is it 15 this year?
It's 15 this year. That's why they're
this week actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll say that at least with that one, they're remaking it with the same director.
Yeah. And it actually looks pretty good, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think it looks good. I don't want to speak for you, Katie, but to me, it looks good because it looks like they're remaking the animated feature, which is great.
True.
It's a great movie. And David, on one level, I can appreciate, they're getting the same guy to make the live action version, but it's it's almost like asking the Rolling Stones to play, their greatest hits. It's I can do other things, guys. Maybe his heart is completely in it, and there'll be something surprising and amazing and worth me forking over money. Because as a lot of you know, I don't go to critic screenings much anymore. I'm paying to go to the AMC up the street. and it hurts
I'm
a little bit more every time.
I'm always paying. So
Yeah.
I'm
Sometimes
always
you're paying
paying.
more than others.
Yeah, sometimes I pay more than others. Yeah. No,
But
yeah. See,
Go ahead, Mark.
the thing is with the 2025 version, I went in without any of that in mind, and now some of it is because I've just blocked out some social media noise recently in general, and some things, and I knew there was controversy about it, but I went in just taking the film by itself. I usually try to do that, even regardless of whatever controversy. I want to take it in and try to look at it by itself. Or in this case, you can't help but compare it to the original because it's literally a live action remake of the original. So you're going to compare it subconsciously or consciously, and the problem, there's a fine line when you do these remakes, whether or not you do a shot for shot, which is what it looks like How to Train Your Dragon may have done, or you try to do something new. But when you try to do something too many new things with it, it starts to make you wonder, why did you do it as a remake outside of the name? Because this has very little to do with the original material. And I think I alluded to that with this. I thought this was okay. I gave it a middle of the road rating. Actually, Zegler, I think, as far as her performance go and her character, is one of the higher highlights of the film compared to the way the rest of the characters are handled. But I got concerned at the beginning of the film when the song literally did the classic, the pop chord change. If you know music at all, folks, there is a formula out there for pop music. And in the recent Disney remakes, they've got one new song or more that they put in that you can hear the chord change, and you're like, you're playing, you're making this feels like a modern song to be played almost on radio. And we get that with one of her early songs. And I'm like, oh, great. This is what we're in for. And then later on, things picked up and the songs varied, and I was very happy about that. I actually liked their updated rendition of Hi Ho because they didn't really change it, but they gave it a more grander feel, a more grander play. And I really enjoyed that quite a bit. But again, there was so much changes with it. I was like, why did they make this as Snow White? Especially like when you had Snow White and the Huntsman come out, it was like they made a Snow White film that wasn't based off of Snow. You could have made this not a specific remake of the original Snow White, just be another retelling of the Snow White story, give it a slightly different name, and I think it would have been fine because they changed so much that it doesn't have nearly as much to it that the original had. And I did like I said, I liked Zegler. I think as far as everybody's performance goes, hers is probably the best one in here. Gal Gadot was miscast as a villain. She's just not used to really playing this type of role. I mean, it's not that she didn't do badly. It's just she was not fit. This was not the role for her. You just do not buy it. Katie said it. The original evil stepmother / queen in the original was far more scary than this witch. And in the end,
we've already had the substance from last year, so I mean,
yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, when the credits rolled for me, it was just like, okay, that was all right. I'm like, the anamorphic animals work better cutesy in animated form than they do in CGI form because they really were they were actually distracting in this. I'm just like,
not the cute little roly-poly hedgehog.
The hedgehog was fine. I'm talking about the wide-eyed bunnies in that right. Just they put either the eyes too far for, I don't know what it was, either Uncanny Valley or what, but the animals were so distracting in
not as distracting as the dwarves.
The dwarves I got used to after a while on certain shots, but earlier shots they definitely were rough. But anyway, I just it had me questioning why
life.
If you're going to change this much, why not just sell it as a retelling of the Snow White fairy tale?
And it is a reimagining for sure, because you're turning it into a musical instead of a movie that has music in it. and songs in it. This is
good
a musical
distinction.
right from the get-go. If you look at the way the 37 opens and the way the 25 opens, totally different. 37 goes right into the mirror, mirror, evil queen conversation. You know, like Katie said, slave. And then this one, it goes into like, let's tell a story with song, green and grass and green and growing, and you know, and the good king and the good queen. Who cares about her parents? Who cares?
Well,
I mean, okay.
let's talk about her parents, because
Yeah.
I mentioned fairness.
Oh, Katie's got something about the
Oh
parents.
yeah, Katie, go ahead. You're back with us.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that inscripted locket.
All right.
Oh, so what? Well, there's that she just gives away after she meets a guy for less than 24 hours. Here, take this, and this means you have to come back and give it to me. No, that's not how that works, sister. But the biggest thing that I mean, basically, Snow White 2025 is like Emilia Perez with all the controversy and bullshit that happened with song and weird dances that kind of didn't make sense either. But what I didn't understand in this 2025 version is why did they keep alluding to the possibility that Snow White's dad is maybe alive? It's like, oh, he's in the far forest. Oh, there's this. And then it's like, oh no, she killed your father. And it's like, is that supposed to be a reveal? I mean, he's been gone for 12 years. I really don't think that it's like, why did you try and make it seem like he was going to come back and he was like fighting far away? And maybe I'm like, that just seemed like a waste of script in my opinion. And it's like, that just made me mad. But also
he's
like
sent
I
away
said,
to the southern
with
border,
the whole
right?
thing with the evil queen. What?
Yeah, sorry. He's sent away to the southern border, right? Because
I'm
to
having
like
a lag.
campaign-
Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with my internet.
Sorry. Yeah, he's sent away to the southern border because of some type of conflict, and he's trying to campaign it. I'm sorry, but you know what a king does? He delegates. He doesn't go himself. He delegates. You know, it's like, and also you're gonna. Are you so clueless? Are you so good yet clueless that you'd knowingly leave your daughter, your only child, with this new woman by herself, knowing that your daughter doesn't really like this stepmother? It's like, come on, man, what's happening here?
Well, and that's the thing is, you know, the mom, the queen dies within the first 5 minutes of the movie because it's Disney.
It's Disney tragedy.
Disney,
right? But then the dad, it's not clearly established that the queen or the wicked, mysterious traveler casts a spell over him. But that's the only explanation I can give for why he fell for this person who is, it's a young Gal Gadot. She's beautiful. An enchantress. But he just comes across like a complete idiot. And, you know, where's the love for the daughter? The big thing with this whole movie and this weird message about the lovely positives of socialism is they go out into the kingdom. They have apples for everyone. Everything in this movie is apples, because, you know, there was an apple in the original. So we're going to make everything about apples. Everyone's obsessed with apples all of a sudden.
I like them apples.
Exactly. They're spraying the apples around, and as the narration goes, it's like, oh, everything was lovely and fair, and everybody got, you know, the same share, and nobody wanted for anything. Like, okay, so it was a completely equal society. So it's weird because when the royal family went down to the village to pass out apples, they were the only ones that I noticed wearing bejeweled crowns. I noticed that everyone in the village was living in a village and not in this opulent castle where all their needs were being met. And then the evil queen comes in, and she's a complete menace because she introduces taxes. I didn't know what this movie is trying to say. I don't think the people who wrote this have any degrees in economic theory, so I'm not really interested in seeing this plopped in the middle of my Snow White movie. I'd rather just go back and hang out with her and the dwarfs.
If you came to a potluck with a dish, and before you laid it down on the table, you took your finger and wiped it and licked it, I would kick you out. And that's what the good king did. The good king did that. And like more than one person has like, let me lick that. Oh, that was great. I got to put it out there. It's like, wait, what's happening?
Well, and I didn't understand that it's like then the evil queen like made all of it's like when Snow White confronts her and it's like, you know, telling the guards to kill her. It's like, hey, John, you were a baker and you used to give people, it's like, hey, you had a cherry farm and you would have people. And I'm like, so wait, so all these people are soldiers. Who the hell is working all of the jobs that they took away? It's like, and why aren't people then starving? Because it sounds like no one's eating because the queen had to take, she obviously couldn't like hire actual soldiers. And it's like, you were a baker. Great. Now you're going to be my man of arms. It's like you had a cherry farm. Well, get up here because you're going to be this. Now. And then once they're like, you know what, Snow White, you're right. I was a cherry farmer. F you, queen. I'm out. Like F this stuff. And but I mean, the whole thing with the demise of the evil queen was such a letdown, especially after, I mean, I thought it was a letdown when I watched it, but then rewatching the 1937, I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. Like this was dramatic. Like this was a death. Like this was something. Hers with the screw you, mayor, and then the mayor like sucks her in. It's like,
and the mayor said,
I guess
screw
that's
you
it.
back.
It's like
sucked her in.
Yeah, screw you back.
I had that same feeling rewatching the 37 one this afternoon. I'm watching this going, man, I'm like, this ending is so good for this story. I'm like,
yeah,
what the hell were they thinking at the time? You know, because I'm like sitting there going, I'm like, this is a perfect, the dwarf, you know, they're chasing her. She's running. She's about to kill the dwarves, but then she ends up dying herself and then get that vulture shot. I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing gets convoluted with, you know, it's not just the dwarves, but there's also Jonathan, who's our bandit guy, who is basically this movie rips off so much from other movies and does the terrible job. I mean, he's basically Flynn Rider from the movie Tangled. He's the handsome thief who's, you know, wanted by the law in the kingdom. And he sweeps this, you know, would-be princess off her feet, but he doesn't have any of the charm of the character from that movie at all. And we just have this band of merry men or magical. No, they're not the magical creatures, but it's the dwarfs and these bandits, and they team up together to march up to the castle and reclaim the kingdom for the people. I don't know. It all feels very half-baked, like a bad apple pie.
What are you gonna say, Katie?
Oh, Katie, you were going to say, I don't know if there's a bit of lag there.
She's glitching.
Well, and also that the songs that I remember are the original songs from 1937. Like, I don't remember any of the new songs that were played.
I remember Princess Problems because I remember it being vaguely catchy, and also it was alliteration in the title.
There is that.
Well, and then, but the thing is, some of these, you talk about being ripped off, ripping off a bit of concept of Robin Hood, making the we don't have the prince who, like I said, in the 37 one barely played a role. Here we have her love interest being more involved, but he's not a prince. He's a thief. He's the prince of thieves. He's literally Robin Hood. She's literally Maid Marian, for fuck's sake. But not only that are they ripping off of that, but if you don't want to say they're ripping off Robin Hood, then how about they're ripping off Into the Woods, for crying out loud, into this film, like left and right. They made the dwarves have to be some magical beings that are 200 and some 50 years old, which they didn't have to do. They introduced some weird glowing hand job thing for the gems that plays no part into the rest of the movie. Their hands glow. They make the gems glow. That's the only time we ever see this power or whatever. Why even introduce that?
This movie had a lot of reshoots and bizarre editing, and it was delayed by a year. So yes, Mark, I think that hand subplot. I'm not going to say what you said because I don't want to get demonetized. That I feel like was a lost dangling thread. And yeah, it just bugged me. I'm like, what are they doing
the
here?
fact that motorboating and glowing hand job in a Disney movie has been brought up during this panel. I'm dying. I'm sorry. That's just so
I'm sorry
funny.
too, because now I got to go edit this tomorrow. Anyway,
you don't need to edit it.
Sorry.
I do if I want to make money, Mark. That's
You'll
how it
still
works.
make money just because I mentioned they're working with their hands.
No,
It's a hand. It's a job. They use the glow in their hand to do their job.
Okay. Yes, YouTube editors, reviewers of the demonetized content, please fast forward to this bit and listen to what Mark had to say.
What was up with that? It was like that. Were they using magic, or what were the?
No clue.
Yeah, we don't
Because
know.
it's an element that was introduced, but you never explore it later on. It doesn't come up once afterwards. It doesn't come up in like they use their glowing power to use the gems to blind the queen or something.
That would have been or use that power to find
Yeah,
something important in the third act, right?
Yeah.
Or and this would never work. It wouldn't even make sense. But if you go with the original ending of the queen who's transformed into the throne, and the boulder falls on her. For some reason, the dwarves have a change of heart and they decide to rescue her by using that special rock levitating power to get it off of her or something and save her.
There you go.
It would have been. But the thing is, like, with the original Snow White, she takes the apple, she eats it, she falls into a death sleep. Okay. But you don't know if she's dead or there's that whole thing of like, well, true love's kiss can bring her back to life or wake her up or something. But it's kind of like, oh my gosh, is she really dead? No, she's not, because she's the hero of the movie. When the crone falls off that cliff, I was shocked. I'm like, wait a second. She can't be dead. That's it? That's how she actually dies? That was a genuine surprise to me. I expected her to, and this, I'd never seen this before, the other night. I expected her to reconstitute herself and there'd be a big climactic fight back at the castle, maybe in front of the mirror or something, much like what we got in the 25 version. But fortunately, no, they stuck to their guns and gave us something satisfying.
And if you didn't get the impression, they had the vultures go out there, which I loved that. That's such a great like punch bookend. Like, in case you're wondering, the vultures got up off their ass and went to go check out what happened. So
make sure it happened.
Yes, and they fly off into this mist. It's so there's such a visual poetry in that version. All right, we're gonna go. There's a weird chat in here that was meant for a different chat apparently, so I'm not going to put that up on screen. But Sujiwa, have not seen this one yet. Just saw the animated Transformers movie 1. It was pretty good. Transformers 1. All right, I heard good things about it.
1 was really surprising.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Hot wicked stepmom Gal Gadot. Now I want to see her as an Ewok. Yeah. She's not going to be saved by the Jedi. 2, we'll have to watch the movie for Gal Gadot, I guess.
You'll be waiting for Gadot. Oh, I'm
she
sorry.
gives good face. Like, I liked her makeup. Her makeup is fantastic. The
I have to say, her costume
are
designs were great.
Yeah, the costume designs for her were all right. Well, they were all right. They were replicated fairly well. The one was doing.
The one she was wearing during a good portion of the movie, it was like the skin tight black thing. I just kept thinking of the Catwoman, like Michelle Pfeiffer, which I'm not complaining about. I just thought it was an odd choice. I'm like, I would rather be watching that movie. Studios need to work with auteurs and give them lots of control for movies to become good again. Filmed by corporations or committees are no good. There's a lot there, Sujiwa, a lot of truth, but I will say, I think my gold standard for these Disney live action remakes is Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. And that's also 15 years old, right? I think that came out in 2010.
Yeah, that was one of the early ones, yeah.
Or 10. I think it's 10. Maybe.
Was it 2010? Okay.
10. Yeah,
I think it's 10 years old. I think it's 2015.
2015.
Oh,
okay. Well, then it's
the costume designer for that was also the costume designer for this one, and I would never have guessed that.
Ooh.
I like looked her up. It's like she did The Irishman, Departed, Shakespeare in Love, and I would never have guessed because I just was not impressed with the costumes. I thought it was one of, especially with the Queen, and like I just didn't like them.
Well, I got to say, with Cinderella, that movie it was just different enough from the original. It focused more on the wicked stepmother, and they cast Cate Blanchett in a wonderful, villainous but not scenery chewing role. It was directed by Kenneth Branagh, who did a lot of stuff in practical locations, amazing costumes. The CGI was on point for the most part. It felt like it had a reason to exist. So yeah, Suju, a lot of what you're saying there is true. But if you're looking for an example of how it can be done right, at least in my not so humble opinion, check out Cinderella from 2015.
Cinderella live action is a standard for me as well. My wife and I went to see it. We both just highly enjoyed it. It was surprisingly better than expected in many ways. I was like, yeah, this one I was happy to see.
My friend and I, my best friend, when we went to go see it, was like, hey, let's go make fun of this Disney movie. And we both walked out like, wow, what was that? Who knew? Old-timey Disney, the man can be considered a filmmaker, auteur. He had a lot of singular control over his movies, yeah. Anyway, to make some money, Disney should just do ads promoting Gal Gadot in the movie. A bunch of dudes will check it out. Hey, it couldn't hurt at this point.
Turn off the sound. I think they'll enjoy it.
She really is kind of terrible. Anyway, I'm glad they left out the eugenics subplot from the 37 version. The eugenics subplot. Help me out with that one. What did I miss?
Well, there's the whole thing about there's a huge controversy about like that it's like Snow White is Snow White because her skin is as white as snow, and that's not the you can't have Rachel Zegler be it because that's just, and I'm like, okay, well that, I mean, also she.
So he's making a joke, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Humor. Well, I was going to say you're a year too early. I think probably said you over that. Well, no, things were brewing in Germany in 37, I guess. But no, it actually. I don't want to really get into this, but I will say something that struck me because there is all that controversy about Ziegler being not, a traditional white actress for the role. Looking at the Snow White 37, and I understand they can't actually make her skin white, but Snow White has quite a bit of color to her as a character, and I kept thinking, oh, if they had made her like all goth and pale, that would have been really disturbing. Let's see. I'm not going to read that comment.
I want goth white. There we go.
Goth white.
Snow goth. Yeah.
Goth dark. That'll be the Asylum
dark.
movie.
There we go.
Yeah, from the people who made Popeye the Slayer Man.
Yes,
all right.
I gotta see that.
This video is not for the kids now. That's right.
I don't think it ever was.
No.
The
minute you have me on,
Teddy.
it's not. Yeah. The minute I'm here, it's not for the kids.
Hello, everyone. Disney is laundering money. Otherwise, there's no way to explain how they released this monstrosity. That reminds me of a Beanie and Cecil joke. This movie is so bad it couldn't have been released. It had to have escaped.
Yeah.
Good discussion. I'll have to. No. Sajio, that is the
wait till streaming.
Lesson. Take this.
Wait till streaming.
Yeah.
Watch it. Wait till streaming.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I would wait till streaming on this for sure. This is streaming quality, and we've had this. Ian and I have had this discussion a couple of times in the pre-show on my show about it, on how films lately, especially in the last few years since the streaming channel boom, it seems like these films are made more and more to look better on the smaller screen. Because I'm going to say right now with Snow White, I don't know who was their person who did the color for this film, but they need to go away because the coloring of this film was weird. I'm like, okay, if you're trying to go for it, everything looked like it was just a stage.
Oversaturated too.
It was oversaturated. The colors were oversaturated, and soft They did soft stuff in some parts, but all the colors were too rich. I get it if you're doing animated film, but in some of this, I'm like, okay, if you're doing live act, it just, don't get me wrong, it looked sharp, but at the same time, like Snow White's classic dress that she wore for most of the film was highly distracting because its colors outshined everything else in the frame.
And you know, to go back to Cinderella, I mean, that was a movie that looked like a live action version of a Disney movie that still is believable as something that would happen in the real world. I think a lot of that goes down to the costuming, which is really upsetting to me, Katie. You mentioned it's the same costumer. I don't know how that's possible. It must have been a rough decade.
Don't either, because honestly, I like from the beginning of the film, I was like underwhelmed with the costumes, but especially for me, the Evil Queen. And a lot of the people that I was with, it's like, yeah, those just didn't look good. And I mean, for a $250 million film, like it just seems like I don't know. It maybe with the woodland creatures, and then, you know, with the miners, I'm calling them miners, I'm not calling them D word, because maybe that's where the money went. But I mean, that's a lot of money for a film to not look like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Also, one more thing too, sorry, regarding Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot, whoever hired her to sing, did they not see the 2020 monstrosity that was imagined that went along when, you know, when everyone was at home, that she started? Because that, to me, that person should be fired. Like, whoever saw that, it's like, yeah, we need to get her in a musical. What are you talking about? That broke the internet because it was hated so much. So what do? Put her as the co-lead in a musical. Bam. Thanks, Disney.
Well, yeah, that's a great point. Although I would pay a lot for someone to, maybe it's when it hits YouTube, that someone's going to remake this version and just replace all of her songs with that Imagine song.
Well, she only had the one actual musical number, which I didn't mind too much, actually.
It was more than enough. It was
yeah, but the main one, the big one with the dancing number and that, which looked sped up and a bit, again, colorization and everything with it. The way this entire film was shot, for the most part, was just really taking me out of it, because I'm just like, everything felt either that it was on a stage, or the way it was colored, or using some kind of Instagram filter on everything, because it did not, it looked off. It looked very off. And I'm like, if you're making live action of Fairy Tale, don't do this. Go out to a real woods, would you?
No, I honestly, I think because this thing was in production for, you know, a while, and then they paused, and then they took a year. This thing was delayed by a year, so it watching it feels very compromised. So they were probably just doing the best with what they had. What they had to begin with was kind of trash. So they just, you know, they cobbled it together. So it looks like what it is, a Frankenstein movie. It would have been better, says Petty, if there had been some white powder in this remake of Snow White. I'm sure those who decided to give it the green light consumed a little.
Maybe.
Indeed. The film did not look good in the clips. Yes, which is why you should stay away, Sujua, if I had to make a recommendation. I think the budgets are fake. Disney is trying to write off some losses. Oh, yeah, and they're going to be doing that for a long time based on this movie. The one thing I want to say before we kind of wrap up, because I know we're going long, Dopey, a silent, lovable character, gets the Silent Bob treatment in this movie, where I forgot to put up the spoiler. Who cares? Throughout the entire film,
you haven't done spoilers the entire time.
It's okay. No one's gonna care. He doesn't talk the entire movie. At the end, what happens? He talks, and then he talks, and then he talks, and then it turns out he's been the narrator of the feature the entire time. And my question is, sorry, go ahead, David.
It made me very happy, because in the beginning of the movie, when we hear the narrator, I was aghast, because I really thought it was Josh Gad, and I wanted to gack in my seat. Like, no,
I thought the same thing.
Not Josh Gad, no. but it's actually the kid from No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
He still looks like Alfred E. Newman, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the live action Mad Magazine movie. They do like Tales from the Crypt, but it's movie parodies with him hosting. But okay, so here's the thing. It doesn't make sense from a story standpoint because they established that these dwarfs have been living in the woods for 257 years.
Mm-hmm.
74 or something like that.
No,
because
it was like
275.
Or 275. Yeah, it was.
275. Okay.
Yeah.
I think 57 years in my head because of aliens, but
Yeah.
so they've been all of this time they've been living out there, and Dopey, we're led to believe because the dwarves, they make a point to say he doesn't talk or he can't talk or whatever, and then he starts just like monologuing, and no one is like, wait, what? Wait a second, how? Even if he'd been keeping it a secret, if you haven't talked for centuries, you're not gonna be like, oh, and then Snow White went to live happily ever after and be like, I can't talk.
It would be great if he had one of those big, like, like spray bottle things.
I thought you were going to talk about a pump action. Never mind.
Sure.
Now
all right.
that'd make it interesting. Snow White 2, Dopey's Revenge.
Dopey's Revenge.
Dopey with a shotgun. There you go.
It's Snow White and the Seven Glocks. All right. Petty says, Ian, you are truly a brave man. I thought you were going to skip my last comment because it was so risque. Thank you, Petty. And no, I just had to, dance around it a little bit. But yeah, always love you, man. All right. Well, Katie, what are you going to say?
After all my complaining and all of the, things that I can critique about the film, at the end of the film, when I was done with my screening, there were little girls that came into the film dressed head to toe as Snow White. I brought a friend's daughter and stuff like that. The little girls in the film, when Jonathan or whatever his name was going to kiss Snow White. Yeah. A friend of mine, because we had been bitching about how all the things that were wrong, he heard them go, oh, he's going to kiss her. He's going to kiss her. Oh, he's going to kiss her. Oh, he's going to kiss her. And it made me realize, you know what? The film isn't for me. It's for them. Mm-hmm. They loved it. I know, like all the kids that I saw, like they were raving about it. So honestly, I think, despite all of these things that are definitely wrong with the film, I mean, it's going to make money. I can't believe it is right now on IMDb. It is at 1.6 for the
got
review.
That high? No.
Yeah.
No, it's dropped 2 points since yesterday, and it's because people are review bombing it. So
yeah. Well, and then the bots, because I mean, for it to get like,
for sure.
It's already got like 125,000 reviews and stuff like that, but it's like one star. I'm like, damn, that's. I mean, I'd at least give it like 3 or 4 stars. I don't think it was that bad.
No, it wasn't Zemeckis' Pinocchio.
Well, see, here's the thing, David. You're bringing us back to the scale that we started the show with. I'm grateful to you because, Katie, you're like, I wouldn't give it 1.6 stars, or like I was about to say I would, and then David brought up Pinocchio. So like, okay, given Pinocchio, given Dumbo, given some of the other bad things we've had to endure, I'll give this movie a 3, but it's a begrudging 3. Because in the face of what it is trying to pull off, a new telling, an adaptation of the 37 film, which is just about perfect, I say, how dare you, if you're not going to bring something to the table, because this just isn't good enough. I take your point, Katie, about this being for kids, and there are going to be kids who love it, but there are kids who back in the 80s thought Gem and the Holograms was the most amazing revolutionary thing ever. I used to think
Howard the Duck.
or the Garbage Pail Kids movies, or Howard the Duck.
It's amazing. They thought it was simply outrageous.
This movie is an outrage.
Howard the Duck. Yeah, I thought Howard the Duck was fantastic, and then watching it as an adult, it's like, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
I loved Howard the Duck as a
Jones.
kid. I loved Howard the Duck as a kid, and I watch it recently, and I loved Howard the Duck as an adult, but for completely different reasons than when I did as a kid.
I loved Blue Velvet as a kid, but
I still haven't seen Blue Velvet.
What?
Well, there's something
That's it.
happening at the Music Box next month, so
Oh, I'm not going to
Blue
that nonsense.
Velvet.
No, I'm not going to see any David Lynch movie with a theater full of David Lynch fans. They'd be like making me watch this movie again. Not that I have anything wrong with David Lynch fans, but no. In fairness, my parents rented
fairness.
Yeah.
in the name of
Fairness!
in the name of socialist utopia. My parents rented Blue Velvet when it first came out on VHS, and they tried watching it with me.
Yeah.
And then they promptly sent me upstairs when the nitrous mask.
Wait.
came out.
They didn't stop with the ear?
No, that was the opening scene. So yeah, I just never quite went back to it. I get a lot of problems.
Why
guys.
did they think that was a good movie to watch with you?
Because they were my folks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're talking the
you've known me a
80s.
while.
We're talking the
Hey,
80s. Come on.
Katie, kids don't come with a manual.
Look, believe me. Look, hey, I watched Toxic Avenger with my dad, and honestly, it was I seriously cannot remember laughing so hard at a film.
That's something you can laugh
I
at.
mean,
Blue Velvet, you'll be disturbed.
Within the span of
Toxic
2
is
years.
pretty-
Actually, no, it was the same year. Within the same year, I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Ghost
Yeah, baby.
with my mom. Anyway, we're going to leave it there, everybody.
And you were worried about me talking about dwarfs
At
and
least it wasn't
their
Ghost
glowing
Dad.
hands. Anyway,
Ghost. Oh, no.
Ghost Dad.
Hey, that movie turns 35 this year. Is that time for a retrospective? No.
They're going to release
No.
anniversary pudding pops. Anyway,
All right. Well, at the risk of running into the same runtime. Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second. Petty's back with another one. Thank you, sir. Thinking about it, the film has a message of value. You can show your children Gal Gadot. When they're madly in love with her, you make them listen to her sing, and then you tell them all the glitters isn't gold.
That's
And then you
right.
show them the Wonder Woman bracelets.
there you go.
And then you show them glitter, and then you. Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Allegra is using the dwarves on their marketing right now.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know, for like, don't be sleepy or sneezy. It's like, I don't really think that's what you should be doing because then kids may pick up these like, oh, well, if these guys have it, then I don't want to be sleepy or sneezy. It's like, I don't
It's
know.
better than
I mean,
ingesting Tide Pods, I guess. But wow, I didn't know it. I did not know that. Wow, they'll tie in with anything. Anyway,
yeah.
we're gonna tie this up. That's not a Gal Gadot Wonder Woman pun, by the way. But yeah, thank you everybody for hanging out. I love that apple, by the way. The swag on this movie is on point. Did you show the mirror yet, Katie?
I thought I did, but maybe not. So
Maybe during the
everybody
pre-show.
hasn't seen it. Here's the mirror.
There you go. You know what would have made it perfect if there's like a little hologram of the mirror face in there. Hey, I can see David and me. Hi.
There's you,
Oh.
and there's
It's like in the
me.
Phantom Zone.
That's so funny.
You will kneel before me. Anyhow.
Wow.
Okay, now you're freaking me out.
With my glowing hand.
Yikes.
Hurry up
All right.
before Petty gives us another 5,000.
We love you, Petty. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of the Spoiler Room Productions, Spoiler Room Podcast, and Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. Wait a second. Hold on. David, nice haircut from Petty. There you go. And also,
Ooh.
new Dune guy should remake Snow White. Oh, Denis
Denis
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve?
Denis Villeneuve? No.
New Dune
actually was
guy.
hoping
I like
it was
that.
I thought it was a nude Dune guy. That would have been great.
I thought he was saying that Timothy Chalamet should play Snow White.
He's white enough,
He is white enough.
There you go.
and he would probably have no problem dressing up like Snow White.
There you go.
Yeah, I suspect. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out, watching us kind of talk about these movies and many other things, and including Contraband. But yeah, next week we're doing something a little different.
Uh-oh.
We're not talking about a new movie. We're talking about a new-ish movie that's going to be out on physical media next week. I haven't seen this yet. I'm excited to. I know some folks on the panel have seen it already, but I want to talk about it, darn it. Companion. Can you see this?
Yay!
There you go.
Yeah, I just got that in the mail.
Then we will talk about it.
You guys
Yeah.
and your freebies.
Well, Jack Quaid once again making an appearance, at least in a movie on the show. We talked about Novocaine a couple weeks back, and we're going to talk about this movie. Very excited to do so. And all right, so we're going to get out of here, folks. Petty says bye. Sejua says glowing hands for this discussion. Thank you much. Thank you all out there for hanging out. If you like this live stream, please like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And please follow all of Earth's Mightiest Critics. Their information is down below. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you, take care, and hi-ho.
Hi-ho.